on the dot.
Hello, good evening. Thank you. Welcome. We'd love for this to remain a two-way conversation, so that was just a test. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking out the time for coming tonight. So once again, wanting to thank you. As you all know, we're present here for the book launch, the book release of YOGAi. Many of you present here would have already heard a little bit about the book, heard some words of wisdom from the author sitting here about the book. And so without further ado, I'm going to start off by extending a very warm welcome with a lot of gratitude to Dr. Karan Singh. Thank you for being here. I'm going to read a quick introduction about him, which I don't know if it does him a lot of justice, and I think any word said may not be enough. So Dr. Karan Singh turned 93 last month and is easily the most erudite and accomplished personality of India. He is a rare combination of deeply philosophical on the one hand and a spirited statesman on the other. Dr. Karan Singh has been the longest serving political figure of independent India and is the only parliamentarian to have held office for 40 years before his retirement in 2019. He was India's ambassador to the US in 1989. He is an eminent educationist, environmentalist, and a towering authority on Indian spirituality systems. His PhD thesis was on the political thought of Sri Aurobindo. Dr. Karan Singh joined the cabinet of Indira Gandhi in 1967 at the age of 36 and has headed several ministries including tourism, civil aviation, health, and education. He took over the Indian Board of Wildlife, now known as the National Board of Wildlife, and committed himself to the conservation of the tiger. I recently heard that he was himself called the tiger. He was also the chairman of Auroville Foundation for 20 years and chancellor of Jawaharlal Nehru University and Banaras Hindu University. He is the international chairman of the Temple of Understanding and author of more than 20 books. He is often described as the best president India never had. Thank you so much once again for the honor of releasing this book. And if I may request you now to release the book.
What do we do now? Stand up?
Yeah, we stand up. Can we exchange copies? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Manish.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would now like to invite Manish Purohit, who is the co-founder of Authors Upfront, to say a few words.
Thank you, Eeshta. Okay, so I'll not take much time. Authors Upfront is a publishing platform that actually helps authors publish their work and take control of what they're doing. In very simple words, we started as a self-publishing platform, but over a period of last 10 years, the business itself has evolved. The process of writing has also evolved in such a manner that due to the democracy of writing and also probably the lack of it in these days, as well as the fact that the markets have opened up, we have been able to help a lot of authors exercise the freedom to write as well as exploit the potential of the market. So it's evolved into various forms of publishing which are supported by the author, where of course the author has the higher stake. It's a bit of a deviation from traditional publishing and also now evolving into a very, very serious form of publishing. So we are now 10 years old. We are also 600 books old. So, and some of them bestsellers right at the number one. So, I mean, I think we are really looking at a serious form of publishing, and not just for vanity, as I was talking a little bit about earlier about. As far as this book is concerned, we published Sunil's first book, The First Principle, in 2014, and really I enjoyed the process of working with him, and I'm sure the converse is also true, Sunil. But apart from that, we've stayed in touch. We've talked about life. We've talked about work. So that's my very simplistic explanation. The book really talks in detail about the interplays of yoga and AI, and all of you must read it. Also, you must gift it. And apart from that, I'll request now Sunil to really elaborate on what I've just given as an introduction. So Eeshta, please.
So now I'm tasked with the very challenging task of introducing and inviting my own father. So for some of you who don't already know, I am Eeshta. I'm also his daughter. I've had the privilege of not only knowing him in the capacity of a father, but I've actually also worked with him and really seen the inner workings of his mind, the brilliance, the challenges, all of it. And as someone who's part of a generation that is seeing so many different sort of intersections at play, one really just being a generation that actually cares a lot about impact, people who care about purposeful careers, people who I talk to who really don't want to just go out there and make money, while also being part of a generation that's experiencing a lot of change and a lot of options and possibilities. We are seeing the emergence of technology like never before. Chat GPT, which 1 year ago, which is the most commonly known AI tool these days, was really not known, and today it's being used in all the work, in everybody I know, in their lives, in their daily work, right? So there's a couple of different intersections at play, and while all of this is happening in this place where we do care about creating impact, we've probably never been positioned before better to create exponential impact. There also seems to be a very deep crisis of who are we, our mental health, how do we make this happen, how do we deal with the weight and the emotion and the burden of a world that's in war, of a world with climate change like we've never seen before. How do we even ensure we'll get past this, And so with all of that, I've actually had the opportunity to have a lot of dining room conversations with my dad. To talk about this, to be frustrated, to fight with him, say, no, you don't understand, but to also get his perspective on some of what he's seeing from the lens that he's had from a life that he's lived much longer than mine. And I think one of the most inspiring parts of our conversations has always been the way he views technology, exponential technologies, its play in the world that we're in and what can be done with it. So with that, I have to admit that I am yet to read the book myself because he has not let go of the manuscript when we asked him, but we're very excited too. But I will invite him to share more, give us more of an insight into how these two, yoga, AI, seemingly enigmatic, but also seemingly very different and concepts come together. How do we bridge the gap, or is it already bridged? Over to you.
Don't you think she should actually be doing this job? She will. Okay, just a quick show of hands. How many people in this room know what yoga is? And how many, okay, there's still time. And how many people know what AI is? Here's a person who teaches. Yeah. So not too many hands went up, which means I don't think. And so, is there somebody here who is interested in both these?
Yeah, of course.
I don't know if you can hear me. My voice, where I say I don't need a mic typically. Okay, so I've never. I mean, this is the first time I'm doing something like this. So if I'm awkward, forgive me. Saying that right up front. And I was telling him that he's asking me, "Are you excited?" I said, "No, I'm very nervous." So he says, for you, this is the first time it's happening. I do it every day. The book release and things like that. Okay. So if everybody is interested in understanding this connection, so what has happened typically is that, whenever this yoga and AI have come together, I don't know why I picked it up, and maybe I was also very intrigued with the concept. But I think, yoga and AI coming together is the thing that's intriguing everybody in the world. Yeah. So when I looked at yoga and AI, I found that there was an intriguing connection for the simple reason that when COVID happened, like Manish said, when COVID happened, one could see actually everything getting accentuated. You found people going on to Zoom, you found people adopting technology without even a second thought because they were forced into it. And on the other side, you found that typically you would feel that, if you're staying home and you're able to do everything that you're doing, then it actually make you relax. But it didn't do that. It made people more and more and more anxious, which means you can't just replace humans with technology, right? So technology has its own place and humans have their own place. Now, what came to me was that every person that I came across, whichever strata of society, you have UPI today, everybody uses a smartphone, etc., etc. So I said, people have taken to technology, so easily taken to technology without going to computer school, without having done anything, without having been taught, right? And yet, if you speak to somebody, they say, I'm not tech savvy. That's the job of a techie. And what I thought was that it made sense to bring all of this together and demystify both, because people, okay, so let me ask a quick question again. How many understand yoga? Show of hands. 1, 2, 3. How many understand artificial intelligence? The point is that they've both been kept by their various, I will use the word priesthoods. The technology guy will keep it as closed as a black box so that you don't understand it. And then you have yoga, which is also kept by the priests so that you don't understand it. And why do you think that happens? That happens because most people can leverage the knowledge that they have to be able to make their own livelihood, make money out of it, leverage it, whatever. So the job of this book that I set out to do was to say, okay, it was a big challenge because, there's so much happening. I was telling somebody just outside. The reason I can't do much or nobody can do much with AI is that by the time you put a peg and say, okay, this is what AI is, it's already moved. Right? And that's what ChatGPT showed everybody. And if you look at yoga, there's no way that you're going to figure out what yoga is, although it's been there for 5,000 years. Right? And yoga in this book is basically a proxy. Yoga is intended as a proxy for spirituality. Very simple. Because that's the one part that you can use to understand technology. We have never found a way to understand ourselves, which is why we are fearful of the external world. So putting all these pieces together, that was the biggest challenge. Researching, making these points was very easy. We can make them staccato points. How do you connect everything? So she asked a question, is there a connection? What do you think the answer is?
Yes.
Someone said yes and no. Okay. There's obviously a connection. What is the connection?
The human nervous system.
Okay, so actually, everyone will make their own connections of the two. This is an individual journey, and that's the whole point of this book, to share it with everybody. Because I felt that this was, before I went from this world, it was too precious for me not to share it with people. So that's the only reason I wrote the book. And it's taken me 3.5 years, right? One more point that I just thought I will, from my point of view, I think I'm enlightening the audience, which is that we've grown up and our brains as biological entities have grown up to be able to handle a linear world outside us. Which is why when technology was behind us trying to keep up with our needs, it was fairly easy. We had challenges, but they were challenges we could understand and we were able to surmount them in some form or shape. Somewhere down the line, technology suddenly took an exponential curve and it's gone way ahead of the pace at which human beings can learn. And that's the reason why we are fearful. It's a biological response, so it's no psychology involved here. As a biological being, same thing that any animal has, it's something that's responsible for our flight or fight response. If there is a rustle in the bushes, when we were hunter gatherers, you had to take an instant decision on whether you want to go towards it. Is it food or are you food? Right? So that's it will immediately do that. It will either give you a rush of adrenaline that run, boss, just run away now. Or it will say, I'll give you the same adrenaline rush. Now you'll have enough power to be able to fight this and take your food back with you. And this is what change like exponential technology does. It activates the amygdala. And when it activates that, it's not in our conscious control, which is why yoga becomes the most important aspect in this, because consciousness is something we all have. And the moment we start understanding ourselves, we are able to make a quick assessment. Do I fight this or do I make it a friend? And that's the general thing. So I think I'm trying to make a point here so that it gives everybody a sense of what AI is. India is poised today to be the leader in being able to use AI with wisdom, ethically. Not the way, just whatever we can do, let's go and do it. Right? And the last point I'd like to make is that this, what it has done, which is now the good, I give you two very good things that will make you feel very good. You will want to leave now. But I want him to give us his views on this. We've moved, this technology has moved us from an age of scarcity to an age of abundance. In the old days, if you didn't have scarcity, you didn't have a business. You had to identify an area of scarcity, you would leverage that and make money out of it. We've moved into abundance, and that you can read in the book, you'll be able to find out the whole thing. And the last point I'd like to make in my speech is that both yoga and AI are very much in our control. They're very simple. Don't get taken in, and don't get carried away. And when we have a chance to discuss it, I can discuss it later on and tell you why I'm saying this. You don't need to learn AI because we all know AI. And you don't need to learn yoga because we all innately know yoga. We know ourselves. Thank you.
Well, I don't entirely agree with Sunil's last point, that yoga is very easy and AI is very easy. On the contrary, it seems to me that we are now moving into a world of a sort of a fresh reality. In my own lifetime, I have seen so many technological changes. I remember the first thing that really excited us was when the electric typewriter came in. That was something very new, but they could bijli pe typewriter chalti. I go back as far as that. He's told you I'm 93. So from at least for 80 years, I've been following whatever technology we had to do in school. But from then onwards, I've been following the technologies. But AI is something which is absolutely fascinating. It seems to me that it is fascinating because nobody knows what it really is, and nobody knows where it can actually go. The point I'd like to make about AI before I come to yoga is there's uncertainty. Why is it that people like Elon Musk and Stephen Hawking have said that AI represents the greatest threat to the human race ever? Why is it? I mean, those are people who must know what they're talking about. Why would they say that? They say that because there is a possibility that this is a new technology which might go completely out of our hands. So far, all the technology, even the nuclear bomb and all, was still in somebody's hands. Somebody had to press the button. Now, if AI becomes self-replicating, you never know what they do. I want to read you something that Elon, if you remember,
James Lovelock.
James Lovelock. He was the author of the Gaia theory, the theory that the earth is a living mechanism. And in his last year, he was almost 100 at the time. He came out with a new book called Novocene. I just want to read you what it says. James Lovelock, creator of the Gaia hypothesis and the greatest environmental thinker of our time, has produced an astounding new theory about the future of life on Earth. He urges that the Anthropocene, the age in which humans acquired planetary state technologies, is after 300 years coming to an end. A new age, the Novocene, has already begun. In the Novocene, new beings will emerge from existing technologies and from existing artificial intelligence systems. They will think 10,000 times faster than we do, and they will regard us as we now regard plants. These hyper intelligent beings will be as dependent on the health of the planet as we are, therefore, they will need us. So, what he says is we moved into an entirely new area. And that is why I find, AI is being used very extensively, as Sunil has said. And it's the most remarkable thing. I was bowled over when he introduced me to ChatGPT. And when I was, give me a essay of 500 words on Jammu and Kashmir, he came out with something. I was shocked. And how did he know? For God's sake, what is happening? We just automatically, without even having to wait. Now look at that kind of intelligence. What that can do to our world positively. First of all, positively, what it can do. It can help us to move in many ways much faster than we could. Like when the aviation technology began, you move faster than you could on cars. Similarly, this AI technology will make us move faster than we can at present. And it can be put to a lot of very positive uses. In education, there's a big question mark now. Nobody will know whether the essay is written by the student or by the machine. So it opens up unthinkable new areas. And we would never have thought that machines could give answers to examination papers. But that's what's beginning to happen. So AI is an astounding thing. It's a great achievement of the human mind. But is it an achievement that will ultimately destroy us? Or is it an achievement that we can use to move on to a higher level of evolution? That is the question before us. So that's as far as I know. I'm a pre-computer generation, but I've been chatting with Sunil, and he's been educating me gradually about the glories and wonders of technology. And finally, we came to, first of all, he started those, you can walk.
Virtual reality.
Virtual reality. That's how we began. And I ordered the machines in all great excitement. Then we moved on to something else, ChatGPT. So there is AI, this tremendously powerful instrument that is there and that has an unlimited scope for growing. And that may be growing beyond our control. It's all very fine to say you should use technology wisely. But what happens if the technology uses itself? It doesn't need you any longer to do it. That may or may not happen, mind you. But I don't know. And the most exciting thing, and most young people, I suppose, we have seen all the movies, is whether at some point in time robots can achieve consciousness. This is a big question mark. What level of development will they need to achieve what we call consciousness? Some people scoff, they say it's impossible. A machine can never achieve human consciousness. Others say you never know. At the rate they're growing, they can achieve anything. So that the jury is still out on that, whether the robots become conscious or whether they remain unconscious. And how will they behave when they become conscious? You remember 2001, that film, many of you may have seen it. Space Odyssey, 2001, that Stanley Kubrick's brilliant film, where HAL, the machine there, suddenly takes control of the robot because it hears something that talks about destroying it. It knows it is in danger, so it gradually takes control of the whole thing. That was, mind you, primitive. In those years from now, this film was made in the late 1990s, and 30 years later, now we're in a new world. So first thing, we are moving into an exciting new world. Now yoga. Yoga is an exciting old world. Equally exciting, mind you. The powers of yoga also are unlimited. Nobody knows where the yoga can take you. I've been talking about yoga for a long time. I don't want to give you a lecture on yoga, but I just want to very briefly give you 4 dimensions of yoga so that you will begin to understand the complexity of it. The first dimension is the Jnana Yoga, the way of the mind. The way of Plato, for example, of discriminating between the real and the unreal. Sata Sat Viveka. And that is the Jnana Yoga, reading the Upanishads, which, by the way, are the supreme texts of Hinduism. Gita is not the supreme text of Hinduism. We may think it is, we may take an oath on it, but it is not. The real supreme texts of Hinduism are the Upanishads, which are far superior and far earlier than the Mahabharata and the Ramayana and all the rest of it. So, the Jnana Yoga, reading, meditating, thinking about what is real, what is unreal. Is there any reality behind the changing external world? Because the world is always changing. Samyak samsarati iti samsara. That which constantly changes is samsara. Is there any reality that doesn't change? If so, what is that reality? That's the Jnana Yoga, the way of the mind. The second is the Bhakti Yoga. That is the way of the heart. Unless the heart opens in love and adoration for the divine, you won't move. You cannot fly on one engine only. You've got to fall in love with the divine. Whatever form of the divine you may like. One thing Hinduism doesn't lay down what you must do, what you must not do. You can choose your family deity, you can choose somebody else, you can choose a person, you can choose anybody or anything. But you've got to have your emotions to flow. So many of us keep our emotions bottled up all the time that we don't flow, and therefore we don't move inwardly. We are stuck because we are terrified of letting our emotions go. They're little like AI. God knows where they lead us. That is the Bhakti Yoga. That is why we have such a plethora of gods and goddesses. Human, zoomorphic gods. So it's very interesting that the Bhakti, they give us a lot of options. One thing about Hinduism is you have lots of options. No other religion gives you options. They say, this is it. This is what you must do. That's it. If you don't do it, we'll blow you up or whatever. But we have a lot of options. You can go to the temple, you need not go to the temple. You can keep a vrat, you need not keep a vrat. There's no sort of force. It is more of an inner journey. So that the second aspect of the yoga is the Bhakti Yoga. The third, the way of the heart. The third aspect is the way of the arms, Karma Yoga. There is Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Karma Yoga. You've got to do something. All of us are doing something. But just doing something is not Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is doing something as a prayer or as an offering to your Eeshta, whoever you worship. If whatever you do, you offer, yat yat karma karomi tat tat akhilam shambho tavaradhanam. I am a Shiva Bhakta. Whatever I do, I offer to him, including this meeting. So that is Karma Yoga. So by offering it to the divine, your karma becomes refined and becomes an important medium of spiritual growth. The general view that karma is here and is not true. That's part of the yoga. So the Jnana Yoga, the Bhakti Yoga, and the fourth yoga is the Raja Yoga, the way of the breath. How many of you actually sat back and watched yourself breathing? You don't have to do very, just sit quietly. Watch yourself breathing. Have you ever looked within? Many people, they skim through life without once looking within. Before they know what's happened, their life is over. And this miracle that we call life is a miracle. It's a miracle that one can speak and hear and read and understand and talk. From the molecular organisms 2 billion years ago, kahan pahunche ab dekhiye, we've reached a Buddha, we've reached a Gandhi, we've reached a... And so that is the Gyan, that is the way of the breath. That involves Kundalini and a lot of other components. I'm just giving you a very brief lecture. So you're getting 2 lectures for the price for 1. This is so yoga. So when you look upon yoga in that sense, you may begin to see connections between artificial intelligence and between yoga. Otherwise, no connection. But if you look at it in a deeper sense, if you look at yoga as a methodology of increasing your inner power and AI as a methodology of increasing your outer power, then you can see the connection. And the one important connection I think we must see is that AI is going to create a lot of problems for us. It's going to give us a lot of challenges. In order to be able to meet those challenges, we also need to develop ourselves. For example, if you go to run a marathon, then you got to start practicing and working. Similarly, if we are going to meet this new challenge of AI, so we have to work upon ourselves. Yoga is working upon yourself. AI is in some mysterious way developing on its own. So I think I must congratulate Sunil for having brought the two together. It's a very thoughtful book. We've been discussing it. He has not mentioned that in his speech. We've been discussing it over. He's cut me out in his speech, so I'll put it in. We've been discussing this over 2 years. He comes every Monday to my house currently, and we talk for an hour on these topics. मैंने जबरदस्ती किताब लिखवाई है, मेरा तो नाम नहीं लिया कमाल है क्या घोर कलयुग है देखिए
आपने परमिशन नहीं दी थी मेरे को
so seriously, you know, I've read this chapter by chapter. I've not read the whole book as it has come together. He kept sending me chapters and then another revision and another revision. मैंने कहा मैं तो अब सब किताब पढ़ूंगा, मेरे से ये chapters नहीं आप पढ़ना
किताब देर से
In any case, now the book, now I hope to read. I haven't read it yet.
Yeah.
I've written a foreword to the book, by the way, and it's a fascinating book. His quotations are brilliant. He's chosen every chapter starts with a different quotation from one of the great thinkers of the world, and there are a lot of very positive comments earlier also before you get to the book by a number of people, many of whom I know. So this is a very interesting, very unique book, and I think that it is, in a way, it's a pioneering book, because I have not come across any other book which has actually made an effort to combine the insights of yoga with the miracles of artificial intelligence. And I say one of the reasons is you never know where it will stop, where artificial intelligence will stop. So I think this is an educative book. All of us, particularly my generation, I've read all my life, I've written books and all, but I have not actually read a book that tries to bring together these two great phenomena. Yoga, India's age-old wisdom, and artificial intelligence, the great achievement of the West. In a way, it's an East-West book. It combines the wisdom of the East and the intelligence of the West. How are these going to work together? Can they work together in harmony? His main thesis is we don't have to be terrified. There's a lot of scaremongering going on. आप कोई ऐसे डरने की जरूरत नहीं है. And try and work in harmony. It's a very good point. but not necessarily convincing, because
You are never
we hope that what he says is true, but we don't know whether it's true or not. We'll find out. आप लोग तो बहुत you're young, you have many decades ahead of you. I hope to find out even in my lifetime, God willing. शिव जी महाराज की कृपा रहेगी. कुछ तो पता चले ना हमें क्या है, रियलिटी क्या है, वेयर आर वी, आत्मा क्या है, Brahma kya? I won't go off into another lecture on that. But I'll just say, well done, Sunil. Keep it up. And all the best, both for yoga and for AI. Let's hope that they become friendly.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. हो गई स्पीच आपकी?
हो गई. मैं तो चलता रहूँगा सारी रात. Better look out.
How do you manage to time it to the dot? I don't know.
Instinct.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry.
Thank you for that very insightful speech. I'm sure that the combination of things that have been said and what you're holding in your hand has resulted in a whole number of questions that would have emerged in your head. And this is an opportunity for you to actually ask those questions. So I'm going to open it up for the rest of the time that we have together, for you to ask any questions that you may have.
These should all be directed to the author.
I think before we go to the author, Dr. Singh, you said everything and you stopped short of saying something, which is what I'm amazed you didn't say it. It's like the dog that did not bark in the Sherlock Holmes story. See, you mentioned Nova scene. Nova scene is nothing but what Sri Aurobindo calls supramental.
Yes, he has overmental and
Isn't
the
that?
supramental. The overmental
Yeah.
and the supramental.
So basically, AI is just leading us towards that because it liberates the consciousness from the brain. That's what it does.
It's an admitted fact, speaking legally, that AI is at a very nascent stage presently. There's no doubt about that. And it's also equally a fact that yoga is a highly developed science. Now, if you pause back for a minute and see, you're trying to correlate a highly developed science with a science which is yet to take off. Is this book not a little ahead of its time? And do you plan to write a sequel when when technology takes over, and then we would like to see what is the result of it?
I don't think it's a book ahead of its time. Yes, to your point, I agree with you that because it is on the rise right now. But if you start looking back, if you look at the internet when it came in, and from there you see the evolution of artificial intelligence, right? I'm saying it just as a placeholder for exponential technologies, but it's artificial intelligence nevertheless. Today we use Google Maps, right? When do you think Google Maps came? So big 2008. And internet came in the actually it came into India in the mid 90s, but it's been used in the US for a slightly longer period of time. These are all artificial intelligence. These are all exponential technologies, right? What happens with exponential is it looks very linear for a long time and then it just shoots up. And that's exactly what has happened with artificial intelligence. When things have come together, and all of these things have come together, computational power, connectivity, things like that, everything has come together. And everything has been doubling. Exponential means it doubles. So there's a very interesting, I will ask everybody this question. I've asked this, so those who know the answer, please don't answer. If you were to start from there and start walking across the room, in 30 steps, where do you think you would be? The other side? 30 steps?
It depends on how big the step
No,
is.
your own step. Just one, because it will be only about the step that you have taken. 30 steps.
Presumably, yeah.
Up to there, right? If you were taking 30 doubling steps, where do you think you would be? Connaught Place? No? Huh? Back to where we started? No, maybe not. Huh?
I would say beyond imagination.
Almost. Huh? 26 times around the earth. To answer your question, that's what's happening with artificial intelligence. We've hit the curve in the last 10 years, right? Every year it's doubling. And so now it's going through the roof. And what's happening is that when it goes up like this and you are still going at this, it will intersect at some point. And that's the point of anxiety and fear that we are facing today, which is why yoga becomes what he said it very beautifully. I know that it is in the book because we've had all these conversations. How do you get the inner work done and start getting yourself inner strength to be able to understand what you need to do, not control the external world? You just can't. Why we are fearful is because in the past we have always been able to control the external world to some extent. Like he said, nuclear, we were able to control it. There was somebody controlling it. Artificial intelligence, exponential technologies, you just cannot control because it's gone up the hockey stick. So that's the answer.
I also wanted to say, like, you know,
Please just tell us your name.
Yeah.
You can sit, you can keep sitting. You
okay,
don't have to.
I'm Naveen Khanna. I'm his neighbor for last maybe 20, 30 years.
And you're Padma Shri also, right?
Yes, thank you. So, you know, just like artificial intelligence is limitless, yoga is limitless,
Yes.
so is biology. It's limitless. We don't understand anything about biology. We think that we understand. Even what you mentioned about amygdala controlling you, you know, the studies shows that the bacteria present in your gut is controlling your amygdala. It is sending a rat intentionally to be eaten by a cat. It changes its behavior. So even biology is moving, and we really know nothing about biology. So we should, I think, keep in mind with the next sequel, keeping the new biology in the mind too. Thank you.
My name is Ramachandran. My very dear friend of 45 years plus, I think. We went to college together, so I know him from when he was a little chatty buddy and many other things that we used to call him. But I first wanted to congratulate you, Sunil, for your second book. No, it's okay. Thank you. And Dr. Singh, it was an absolute pleasure to hear from you as well. So thank you. My comment more so is more in terms of the fact that there is obviously the extent of AI's influence is more Western centric at this point in time. So very reductive in terms of how it approaches. The philosophies, whether it is the Advaita philosophy or whether it is the Confucius Lee philosophy or whether you look at the Ubuntu from African philosophies, none of those philosophies are actually being imbibed in implementing AI and providing solutions in AI. So when the point of singularity does come, the point when robots become more powerful and super intelligent than us, do you believe that it is going to have a very distinct Western way of, I believe that it is going to happen. My question is our future then, because it is being developed in the Western thought process, is that going to have be a little more in terms of how they think, and rather than the Eastern philosophies or the African philosophies, A, and B, how do we stop that? I mean, because I'm struggling with that process. Have you given a thought to how we can stop that completely being influenced from the Western culture standpoint? Thank you.
What do you think?
It's almost impossible to stop that because there's so much Western consciousness in our minds,
In our
from
minds,
our
exactly.
educational situation. But if we make an effort, that's why each one of us has got to make an effort, not necessarily to reject the West, but to also see what we have here. I think ultimately it is the combination of both that is the answer. You can neither dismiss Western intelligence and technology, nor can you dismiss Eastern wisdom. How do you combine them? I think that is the basis of this book also, and that is the only answer I can give.
So one of the things is, it just comes to me when you ask this question, which is a great question because that's how we start thinking about it, is that, see, the West has less number of human beings and the East has a huge number of human beings. So if you look at India, China combined, we are 1/3 of the... Now, as long as you're looking at technology, right, technology, because they are way ahead of us, they will keep developing technology. But the fact right now, when I said abundance, we also have the same level of technology available to us. Now it's a question of will. Exactly that's what he said. And if we are saying that the influence is coming from there, it is a handful of people, right? So what does that mean? How do we activate the consciousness or the understanding of a larger number of human beings on the yoga side of things? The second point is, now we've had this discussion many times over. We keep debating and we never seem to agree on this. I say that technology will never have consciousness. And he says, how do you know? And then we say that, well, it might not have. So he says, if it has consciousness, how will you know it has consciousness, or how will it know it has consciousness? So we've been doing all this. But the basic point here is that how do children learn? Is it what you tell them and teach them, or is it what they do because they see how you behave? So unless human behavior changes, artificial intelligence will always go towards the direction that you have pointed to. Right? So we have to change our behavior. And if we have to change our behavior, we have to go back to ourselves. And some of the techniques that you can start with to get to the point where you can understand yourself as an individual and then as a collective is the yoga route. And I will definitely tell you to speak to Mr. Yatish Rajawat. He's here. He's a big champion of, how can we use technology for India? The ONDC and things like that. You've been writing about it and
bypassed or given the fact that intelligence is now going to reside with machines. And you kept using the word wisdom continuously, Eastern wisdom and Western intelligence. I see the next generation, my kids, and they're, it's no longer important for them to know things anymore, because whatever they need to know, they can get it at quicker thing from a mobile phone. So knowledge is as such degraded in that sense. Intelligence at some point in time will also get commoditized. So it doesn't matter whether I have an IQ of 160. The machine will always have, every machine will have an IQ of 160.
Correct.
So when you commoditize intelligence, it's very, you're basically lowering its value. Is there a role somewhere for our statesmen to play and people like you to play, to guide us to how should the next generation now live their life more wisely and focus more on wisdom rather than on accumulation and intelligence?
great question.
Well, we have a lot of wisdom in our background, but how we use it, as you see, the question is, how do you get people to use it? There are lots of gurus nowadays who are teaching a lot of good things, mind you. Some of them are in jail, by the way. That's a different matter. But we have some, we have some very good gurus also who are free people, and you must learn from somebody. Kya bataya? How can we say? Because how can anybody gain any akal? Kiske de sakta hai? If they don't have the consciousness, how can you give it to them? It's for our public men, it's for our politicians. They don't always act wisely. They can't become role models. A few might become role models, but generally politics is not an area which is looked upon as any great area of wisdom. Similarly, education now is in the doldrums. So everywhere we look now, it is a question of seeing what we can do in our own way to help the process of, as you say, helping to pass on the wisdom. If you can do it to one child, you'll have achieved something. You can't do it to the whole human race, but if you can do it to one person, even that is. 7 o'clock, I'm afraid we have to start winding up now.
Thank you for reminding us of time, but also for sharing all of that wisdom. I think as maybe the only person representing the generation we're talking about in this room, and how to empower, I think what I'm hearing is just how we can move from fear to empowerment, or the lack of knowledge, the lack of knowing to actually knowing and then acting out of a space of clarity as opposed to confusion and fear. So once again, thank you very much, sir, for being here. Big congratulations, Papu, for the launch of your book. And last of all, there is, of course, the book that's outside. You can purchase it today at the launch price of 500 rupees.
One green note.
One green note. Be back in
So
5
just
minutes.
one more thing. I just wanted to thank my family that is here. My mother is right here.
Okay.
And Mala's
Mala,
parents are-
where's Mala? She's
Mala
there.
is there. She's been the master of ceremonies. My
3 generations.
yes, and my brother is around. He's also part of the team, so he gets a double thanks. He's there, Rajiv.
Okay.
And I must give a shout out to Ananda. He's in the team here. He is part of the team. He is part of Idea Farms. There is Sunny. He's created the website. By the way, the website is live now. So the only thing, my intention for this book is to reach as many people as possible, where it can make a positive difference and answer the kind of question that you have asked just now.
Thank you. Good night.